Hello everyone and welcome to A Celtic World, the Celtic channel connecting fans from all around the globe. So whether you're in Saltcoats or Seattle, whether you're in Newton Arbs or Newton Stewart, you're very welcome here to discuss all things Celtic. And joining me tonight to discuss all things Celtic are Brian, who's in Ireland. How are you doing, Brian?
Not too bad. I'm actually in a place called Armagh today, so that's another one we can add into from Armagh to Azerbaijan, but yeah, just working away. Delighted to be here as always.
And Michael on the home front in Glasgow there. How are you doing, Michael? I can't hear you, Michael. Can you hear Michael, Brian?
No, he must be muted.
Are you on mute, Michael? No, I'm not able to.
No, it must be a loose connection, Michael. I don't know.
Michael, we can't hear you, mate. We'll just carry on just now. If you can check your audio. All right, looks like it's just me and you, Brian, for the time being. So welcome everybody joining us in the comments. And you're all very welcome here to join the conversation. As I mentioned, we're the Celtic channel for people from all around the world to join in and give us your thoughts. We are on at the following times. So it's 8:30 p.m. if you're like myself in Sydney or anywhere on the Australian East Coast. It's 6:30 p.m. if you're in Korea, in Seoul. If you're in Hong Kong or Singapore, it's 5:30 p.m. If you're in Abu Dhabi in the Middle East, it's 1:30 p.m. If you're in Rome in Central Europe, it's 10:30 a.m. And if you're at Celtic Park, it's 9:30 a.m. in the morning. If you're in Pittsburgh, it's even earlier at 4:30 a.m. And if you're completely off your head and you're joining us live from Los Angeles, then it's 1:30 a.m. in the morning and you really need to get to your bed. So if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe the channel. We're like around about 950 subscribers now. We're growing all the time. We're just a new channel trying to do something a bit different. So it'd be great if you could just like and subscribe while you're here. So we just welcome to a few guys already in the chat. To Christoph Georges. Hail, hail, boys. Hope you're okay. Frank Kennedy, morning, boys. Hail, hail. Michael Ross, hail, hail, troops. And good old Frank Brennan joining us with his giving us the pearls of wisdom as he always does. We must refocus because we just must. Although I've been saying for a while that Scottish Cup is a total disposable commodity this season. But that's not saying losing on Sunday is okay. So we'll discuss that a little bit later on. And yeah, so first we'll talk about the fallout from the game on the weekend. Obviously, this story regarding the refereeing is going on and on. Now you haven't been on, Brian, since, so I might just grab your overall thoughts on the game. Just let me know how you've seen it, how did you feel about it, and how you feel about it now.
Watching the game, I don't know if you've ever listened to the Huddle Breakdown and another podcast, but they mentioned about negative variances, which I found very interesting. And literally from the get-go, we got the penalty, which we were lucky to get. He missed the penalty, and then then Yang gets sent off for a high foot. It was never a high foot. I think there was Nani, who played for Man United, had the same kind of thing. Again, it should have been a yellow card maximum. I think the refereeing decisions definitely cost us that day. Going down to 10 men after like 12 minutes, and then coming up to halftime, Iwata, the handball was never a handball. It was, there's actually a rule in place at the minute that if it's accidental, it shouldn't happen. And then next thing you know, 2-0, the goal goes in. Okay, it's disallowed. And then I think it was Iwata again who stood on the ball for a period of time. what my overall assessment of the game is, we were pretty much done up like a kipper by the referees and the officials. Had things changed, had Ida scored the goal, maybe the penalty, things would have went different. But it's hard to play. Hearts were happy to let us have the ball and soak it up. But it's hard to play for like 80 plus minutes, because the match is going to about 96 minutes anyway, with 10 men. And I look at the team, I think everybody did particularly well, bar Yang, I think's faultless. Iwata had a shaky game, and Scales had a couple of hit and miss, but I just think the players overall did their best. Brendan, when he brought Kyogo on and put Kyogo up with Ida, it looked encouraging, but there were a couple of opportunities. Again, Dyson Maeda was, as much as I love Dyson as a real industrious player, he can be technical ability wise, but the game itself was, I think, it's not like any other games where we've sort of lost and it's been all doom and gloom. I think we were hung out to dry by the officials, and no shock there. And whilst the game was disappointing, it doesn't really change anything, because we're still 2 points in it. And even if we had a loss, I still think we will beat them. I think we've got better players, and certainly with this match tonight in Benfica. But overall, again, it's enhancing the sort of siege mentality that we have at the minute. And I think something, I'd rather get it all in the one game, all the negative variances, like a man sent off, a missed penalty, a couple of dodgy decisions by the referee. I'd rather get this out of the way and then batten down the hatches and move on. But what it has done is it's exposed Iwata for what his faults are, and it's a good thing is we can rectify it this weekend against Livingston, who are literally, this is the last throw of the dice for Martindale. This is the proverbial or bust for him. Season's gone. They're relegated.
Well, Brian, hello. Can I say hello to everyone?
Hello, Gav.
You're talking about everything going wrong at once. That seems to be happening for a Celtic world as well. I've had a power cut here for the past hour and a half, and so the lights literally only went on just as you went live, and then we couldn't hear Michael. So people in the comments, if there's anything else we need to do, like adjust people's volumes. I'm not sure what's going on with my microphone, this new laptop, but let us know about people's volumes. So do you mind if I just jump in here, Stephen, and take control?
So you take it away, Gav. I'm very happy to let you do your thing. Do what you do.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Did you put this up yet?
I haven't put that up yet. We were just kind of doing introductions.
So this is the plan for the chat. We're going to talk about the fallout from the previous game. Fallout Boys, little musical reference for you there. Secondly, we're going to be talking about Abada going to Charlotte. Charlotte sometimes, little musical reference for Brian there. And then we're going to talk about our ability to refocus on the football, because we absolutely must. And what's that going to look like? Where are we going to get that from? And what are all the various elements of that? Up for the cup is the preview of the Livingston game, and then Celtic socials. So that's the plan. Thank you everyone for joining us, as you've already said. Okay, so fallout from the Hearts game. Well, I guess the first thing to talk about is the fact that we appealed the Yang red card. I'm just getting the share screen stuff up here. Yes, we're appealing the Yang red card. Celtic Football Club can confirm that it will be appealing the red card issued to Yang during the match. And I just wanted to play this. This is from our show last week. Hopefully you can hear this sufficiently, better than last time.
I think what will happen is Brendan Rodgers will be spending a couple of weeks in the stand, and he'll get a heavy fine. The SFA will back the referees, and that'll be the end of it. And to be honest with you, just like everything our week board does, they won't do anything at all. They'll just sit in their hands and let this play out and let other people take responsibility for it. Now, the time to confront the John Beaton issue is long gone. That train has long left the station. I think it was the infamous photo of him having pints in a Rangers pub after a Celtic Rangers game, where he denied Celtic a last-minute winner, a Stonewall penalty, and then he made his way straight to the Crown Bar in LIVCEL.
So, Stephen, that was you telling us what is going to happen, and it's playing out that way, right?
Yep. Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise, what's happened this week. I don't think there was any way they were going to rescind the red card, because I believe that there is a case you can make for that red card. You could understand why people seen it as a red card, regardless of whether you disagree or agree or not. I happen to think it was a ridiculous decision, as Brian was saying earlier too. But that was always going to get thrown out by the SFA. There really wasn't any way they were going to reduce that back down to a yellow. Otherwise, they were basically not backing their officials, and I was pretty sure they were always going to do that. So not a surprise, but I think more importantly, Celtic asking to have the VAR audio to see what was actually said between the ref and the VAR is very important, and something we should definitely be following up.
Okay, how's my volume now? People in the chat, is that a bit easier to hear? Everything's up to the max. So I'm struggling to get a handle. You can still hardly hear me, Mahesh. That is not good.
I can hear you. I can hear you, Grant.
I know you guys can hear me, but
yeah.
We've also got a bit of an echo, Gav.
Bit of an echo. Holy Moses. Well, maybe it's better if I'm not here. Should I depart, or can you live with it?
Oh, we can live with it for now.
Okay, so there's been a response, Brian, already from the FA, as mentioned. The appeal is denied. Big surprise. So I wanted to put this up and see if you agree with the sentiments expressed here, Brian.
Oh. Totally agree.
Can you read that?
And I would be following the appeal process if there's an opportunity to reappeal or bring lawyers in. There's no accountability from the SFA, and if you were Premier League referees have to divulge which club they support, and SFA you don't have, or SPFL you don't have to do that. So let's get with the times. We've got full-time players and we've got part-time referees. It's an absolute embarrassment. And if I was Celtic, I would get lawyered up and just appeal.
Well, I've made a couple of adjustments. Let me know if that's better for sound. I hear some people saying, this would never happen under the bonnet. He'd be doing all these things, pushing for reform of the SFA, not taking no for an answer, allegiances to be declared, background checks, live audio. Stephen?
Yeah, I think that should be the least we're expecting. As Brian says, the fact we've got part-time referees refereeing a fully professional league with highly paid players and with a lot of money at stake from Champions League qualification is just farcical, and it kind of just leaves the conditions that allow people like Beaton to get into the system and thrive in the system and still be able to get away with what he does all through the years. So I think root and branch reform is needed. In terms of what Celtic do just now, I think we should still be pushing behind the scenes, and not so much about the red card, but certainly about the penalty. Because although you could make a case for the red card, you can't make a case for the penalty because it was just completely in breach of the current IFAB regulations for penalties, and that's where we should be. That's where we should be pushing.
All right. There's still people complaining about the noise. I think it's me. I'm just going to let you get on with it and back away. All right. You take over, Steve.
All right. Okay, mate.
Because there seems to be echoes all over the joint. Although some people are saying it sounds not too bad. What's the final verdict, please? People in the comments. You still hearing echoes? How's everyone's volume? Let us know before I leg it.
I think yours is fine, Gav. But mine and Brian's still echoing.
Yeah, definitely.
Why would that be?
Could it be to do with you showing the previous clip of Stephen? If you could close that down, maybe that'll get rid of the echo.
But that's only on Twitter. No one's got YouTube open.
No.
This is pretty boring. I'm going to just back away and let you get on with it, Stephen. Cheerio. Bye, everyone. Sorry for that.
All right. That sounds better, eh?
Oh, definitely. No echo.
Yeah, all right. So as we were saying there, Brian, what do you think's the next move for Celtic here? What do you think we should do? Do you think we should just draw a line under it and move on? Because obviously we hear today or yesterday that Brendan Rodgers has now been charged by the SFA for his post-match comments, which were along the lines of, he mentioned the word incompetence of the referees, and he's been charged by the SFA for that. So his hearing, funnily enough, is being delayed for a few weeks. I'm sure it's a complete accident that if found guilty, he'll be in the stand for the Rangers game. But I'm sure that's an entire accident of dates, Brian, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I would just keep using the system and appeal and reappeal and follow the process thoroughly. And I would do exactly what our noisy neighbours would have done over the years, whether it be. I think the problem with us at the minute, there's no real communication from the club about what's happening. So that leads to speculation about, maybe this is going to happen or that's going to happen. If they just come out and say, yeah, our legal team's dealing with this, and then draw a line under it. I actually think it could potentially be a good thing for us because, Brenda mentioned about the siege mentality, and then I think people are coming out like okay, Big Sutton come out and said a few things, but there's people coming out that really they've been exposed for. I mean, the game as a product, and I hate saying that, it's embarrassing. It's like real tin pot, like the bowling club mentality, and I would hate that. See if it was flipped on its head. See if we had to rely on referees to get decisions and penalties and all the rest of it. It would be like winning the lottery, but you've stolen the ticket or something. I've never had to rely on a referee. I never would like us to rely on a referee in decision or win at all costs. You know what I mean? We've tried our best with this, and I think this could be potentially a watershed moment because, Brendan is an elite manager. He's an ex-Premier League manager. Whenever Gerrard came over to manage them, first thing he said was that we always get refereeing decisions against us and all the rest of it. And I can't remember much happening. I think it was away to Aberdeen, his first game in charge. we have been too nice. We've been too nice in terms of the team. We've been too nice in terms of communications and the board. And I'm actually delighted Brendan came out and said, do you know something? Ask John Beaton if he's sitting in a look. I know he wasn't at the game. Beaton, I believe he was in Stranraer. Was that correct, Steve? He was doing it remotely.
I don't know exactly where he was, but he was in a VAR
he was
studio
in, but
somewhere.
he was in a VAR studio, but he wasn't at the ground. You know, he wasn't
at the ground. No.
So he was. So how can that be? How can somebody who's, 60 miles, I don't know where Stranraer to Edinburgh, Bells Hill to Edinburgh is, but how can somebody be influence a game? It's embarrassing. Neil Doncaster needs his head looked if he thinks that's a song. If VAR has to be all or nothing. If I don't know what Beaton does during the week, but I know our boys and all the rest of them are professionals, are full-time professionals, but we have amateur level of refereeing, and I would just really get lawyered up. I would do what the other crowd do when it came to the sponsorship deal with Cinch and throw the toys out of the pram. And I really would get to the stage if Dermot Desmond has a pair of balls between his legs, say, you know something, I will pull our club out of this league, and the SPFL will die a death without us. We're the biggest club, we're the best run club. Do you think Alex Ferguson in his day would take that from referees? Do you think Arsene Wenger would take it? Do you think Jurgen Klopp? The list goes on. Ange Postecoglou, our ex-manager. It's embarrassing, the decisions that's been going against us. The fact that the other crowd didn't get a penalty for something like 38 games within a year and a half, it just beggars belief. Alan Morrison on Celtic by Numbers had a great, I think it was Graham Spears, two of them had an interview, and they were mentioning about positive and negative variances. And they were getting, the only time they were getting penalties and decisions going their way that was influential in games. Do you know what I mean? It's like even when they got the penalty, the game won. Do you know what I mean? It's when they keep calling us paranoid, and again, you've probably seen Paul Larkin's film Anyone But Us. And it goes into the even back to the day of Stubbs. I remember Big Stubbs. He came out and said, look, the referee said to him, "You're not getting a penalty today." It's literally. I would recommend any fan to go in and Google Paul Larkin and that Anyone But Celtic documentary, and it is unbelievable. But I think we're in a position, if anything happened untoward, if one of our players, did something that wasn't befitting to the club and the standards and all the rest of it, the lawyers would be on them to terminate the contract, to do whatever. I really mean that. I hope to God we win this year, and I think we will. I think we will win the league this year. But we need to do something about the bowling club mentality, the blatant cheating. How long I would hate, and again I mentioned it earlier on, I would hate to win something without doing the right thing. Even in life, I'll give the driving instructor £100 to pass my test. It wouldn't feel right. I've never had a foot up in anything I've done in life. I've done it myself and my family. I don't need a foot up by a member of this club or a member of that club and all the rest of it. And I know I'm going to call it out, within the Masonic system, if you will always try and do your brother a favour, and that could be in life, in education, in a career, or in football, or anything. So that needs looked at also. But again, the only way we'll hit them is by hitting them in the back pocket. And really, Celtic, as a club, we are the only club in Scotland to win the European Cup, Champions League, whatever you want to call it. We have that. We were the first to do it, first British club to do it. So we set the standard. But why should we adhere to that? Insane. It's like something out of the 70s. It's corrupt. Call them out for it, and then say, if you don't want us, we'll go elsewhere. I don't care. I would go and watch Celtic if we're playing against Islington or Altrincham. Just if that's the way, the league will die, and do the club do we want that? But we're bigger than that. That's what we're about. We're about doing the right thing a club like Iwata, not just we accept everybody, we do things the right way. Look at even the 67 in the final, they kicked us off the pitch, but we won. But anyway,
I think it's interesting, isn't it? The narrative that seems to exist around about the Scottish game is that Peter Law and Celtic run the SFA. Basically, that's the sort of narrative that's peddled by Rangers fans and commentators. But the thing is, if that was actually the case, then John Beaton would be refereeing the Pollock Juniors match this weekend, and not a first grade football match in Scotland. It's clearly nonsense, and I think what you need to imagine for a minute that a few weeks ago when Celtic played Rangers at Celtic Park, and Willie Collum didn't award Rangers a penalty for an Alistair Johnson handball, subsequently shown to be the correct decision due to the Rangers player being offside in the build-up. But because of the process seemed to be a little bit flawed, they were calling for all sorts to happen to Willie Collum, to be removed from his position, never to referee again. And that was after awarding the correct decision, albeit with a slightly flawed process. Now, can you imagine that after that game finished, Willie Collum made his way straight down to the Squirrel Bar in the Barras and had a few scoops with Celtic fans, and had his picture taken with the Celtic fans? Can you imagine the absolute backlash against Willie Collum? He would never referee another game in his life. But ultimately, that's what we've allowed. That's what we've allowed to happen. And we've allowed it to become normal, where guys like John Beaton feel comfortable doing that and still think they can get away with it. And we've let them away with it for all these years. And we're reaping now what we sowed, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no integrity. And the thing about it is, the stars are the players on the pitch, not the referees. The referees aren't the personalities. I remember listening again, hate referring, but we're all the same. The Tims, Monty Burns come out and said, the only thing that worries me about the next game, he says, is the referee. That should never be the case. In England, in SP, I couldn't tell you the name of a referee in the Premier League. I remember there was a guy that Roy Keane hated, David, somebody or other bald guy, that Keane and him had a running sort of argument. He was an Arsenal fan, but I couldn't tell you the name of a referee. There's Mike Riley, who I think he's head of referees, but we have the referees here. I could tell you, with Willie Collum, we've got previously there was Sir Bobby Madden, or Brother Madden. There's Beaton. You know what I mean? The list goes on. There's Robertson. The list goes on. Kevin Clancy. I don't want to know who the referee should be. The referee should be as the guy doing the hot dogs. You shouldn't have to know. They shouldn't be involved in anything. It's like, who's the name of the linesman? Who's the guy that does the halftime draw? Who knows? Who cares? There should be somebody there. And if we're looking at monetary, just get somebody in. Do you remember that? I don't know. You probably remember it, Stephen. But it might have been in 84, 85. The referees went on strike in Scotland. And I think we got in a couple of Polish lads from the Greek lads to referee the games. I can vividly remember that as a nipper.
I think it was much later than that. Wasn't that long ago? I can't remember the exact year, but it was during Neil Lennon's time as manager of Celtic. And
was it then?
Yeah, there was an incident up at Tannadice where Celtic, I think Celtic were awarded a penalty, and then they cancelled their decision, and there was all sorts of nonsense went on with the referee lying to the Celtic manager, and it all reached the press and media, and there was a bit of a backlash from the Scottish referees who then went on strike, and they had to get some foreign referees in, which really worked fine. So it kind of backfired on them,
But you think about it, if there's anybody at the game who's making monkey chants or doing that, they would pull the team off the pitch. And to be honest with you, it's a form of, societal racism almost, institutional, kind of racism against us. And I pull the team off the pitch. Problem is, if I was managing the club, would be in the dock more times and flipping, I don't know. But we need to get to that stage. Could you imagine if, how can you sit by and watch that? That young fella Yang, it's like he's starting to he was starting to get us out of jail a wee bit, and bit of momentum, and then it's knocked on the head immediately. I'm sent off, 2-match ban. Brendan speaks about it, 2-match ban, which ironically could be against the game at Ibrox and I guess Ross County. But the need to have, what would happen if we just pulled the team off the pitch and went, no, that's disgraceful. I know that's a real like. But it shouldn't have to get to that. That we're at that stage. If there was I'm not going to GAA or something. If there was a team that was really, really dirty and they were kicking people about and booting, the game could get suspended. Why shouldn't the game be suspended because of really, really horrible refereeing, incompetent refereeing decisions? But they'll never do that. They'll never pull them off the pitch. But it should never have got to this stage.
I'll pull up a couple of comments before we move on from the game. One's from Frank Brennan. Elite Brenda lost his Sunday's game before a ball was kicked with a physically and mentally weak midfield trio against a Swingcastle 5, and we can even more to taking one of them off. And also, Mahesh kind of backed that point up later on by saying, if I can just find his comment, I had it there a minute ago. There we go. No, that's not it. There we go. Start to question elite manager tag for Rodgers. Given tactics at Hearts second half, 3 subs left on the bench, O'Reilly playing too deep, and Rodgers should have played a higher line. So do you think, and I'll play devil's advocate here, do you think that Brendan, by going on the offensive in the media, is trying to cover up for his own mistakes a little bit? As that seems to be the sort of narrative in the media this week.
It could be, but again, from being the devil's advocate, it's okay us sitting back and reviewing the match, and he's doing it in real time. He's having to make those decisions in real time. I know Brendan likes to have a type of player on the pitch that can do a number of positions, and that potentially could have been the reason for his subs. He likes the variance. He likes the flexibility of people that can move positions and switch wings and do that. Yeah, it could be, but at this stage, it is a title race and it's a title fight, and there'll be more twists and turns on it. And I really do think this is whilst it's not comfortable for us as fans, I think this potentially could be one of the best league winning seasons if we win it, and stopping the 10 in a row. I mean, it's so important. When we played, Brendan came the first year, we had superstars in the team. I'm talking about the Kieran Tierney and Musa, Edward, the list goes on. We're ready with a team which we haven't had 3 players playing consistently all season. Now we look at the defence. Joe Hart's been up and down. He's been decent enough the last couple of months. We've never had O'Reilly's form's been really good, and then it's dipped. Would it be great to see 11 players? I'd be happy if we had 6 players on the pitch that could give us an 8 out of 10 every week. Brendan's doing what he's doing. He's an intelligent man. He's calculated. When he came out and said against a couple of weeks ago about this team will write its own story, and I think if we can take any positives out of this, it's really, you think about it, if you can't help this team, if you're Stephen Welsh or Rocco Vada, whoever, could you imagine a young fellow Kelly? This is an opportunity for them to come in and make themselves heroes. But for winning this league, and even Rangers at the minute, they are struggling with injuries, and with the Benfica game, home and away, the cup game, it could come down to boys like Mitchell Frame could score as a goal in the 93rd minute. It is really setting it up. It is real box office stuff for the neutral. But I think Brendan's just doing what he can do. But it is, being a devil's advocate, it's hard in the moment. He pulled off the Edward thing, which potentially, remember when he went down to 10 men and he brought Edward on. Edward on. But it's hard when you're living in the moment. You have to make that decision. And again, it was a tough away ground. The variances that went against us, the fact that the fans were brilliant. They didn't stop singing, but there was money about, I can't remember, a couple of hundred fans at the game. So no, I think we'll put it behind us. We'll move on and let the lawyers do what they need to do. Let the directors, the guys that pay themselves a couple of £1 million a year bonus, let them step up to the plate and protect what we have.
All right, so let's talk about moving on. The tagline in the show today is "Can Celtic refocus?" And we have to refocus. And I wanted to just grab your thoughts, Brian, on Callum McGregor being missing from the team, and how big an issue do you think that was for us? We don't know yet if he's going to be back for this weekend's cup tie against Livingston. I would hope that they don't risk him in that game if he's not right. And we save him for the league fixture following week. But how big a miss is he for Celtic, Brian?
He's a big miss. He's the captain. He's Brendan's eyes and ears on the pitch, and he's a leader, and he's done it before. And when you remove that from the team, we don't have that many big players at the minute, leaders who are vocal. Joe Hart's vocal. I'm thinking around the pitch. O'Reilly's quite calm, quite collected. Kyogo, the only real sort of leaders I would say we have at the minute are CCV, Alistair Johnson, the big lad up front, Ida, Taylor. Everyone else is even Scales. It's not like you don't hear Scales shouting and screaming and calling it out. We don't have that many, and I think in a dogfight you need a couple of people who can put their head above the parapet and take a chance. I would just be great. I mean, I wouldn't. Callum's a big miss. He's done it, his experience, his know-how, his nous, and he will be missed. And I wouldn't rush him back. I would rather have him for 6 games, the last 6 games of the season, than rush him back and cripple him. If we can survive, I like to think we'd beat Livingston because they're in last chance saloon. Maybe get a Tate back for the Glasgow derby, but Cal's a big miss. You know what I mean? It's like you're sitting there. You've got CCV, you've got Joe Hart, and a few others. When you remove him, you're removing the engine room. You're removing the captain. You're the guy that can maybe try and do something. I think the subs, our subs, I wouldn't want them beside me in the trenches. You know what I mean? It'd be you'd have Palma there fixing his hair. You'd have Big Day or Dyson would be running around like a headless chicken, getting everyone shot. But he is a big miss. He's a big miss. But hey, I've seen us get back. I mean, look at the game, the 1-0, the Kyogo 1-0 game, first game of the season against them. We're down to the bare bones, and we got through it. I think this is just the time for leaders at this stage of the season.
Yeah, I think it was evident during the game against Hearts that we were lacking leaders all over the park, and I think it's going to be interesting to see tomorrow, or when we hear from Brendan Rodgers, whether Callum McGregor is going to be fit again for the weekend, and it's going to be very interesting to see what he does if he's not, because in my opinion, Iwata was absolutely terrible. He got caught in possession in one incident in the first half where Hearts had the ball in the net, it got ruled out for offside. That was such a bad piece of play. He dilly-dallied on the ball for about 5 seconds, and he had an open pass all the way until he got dispossessed. And probably what's the most congested area of the field. You're never going to get that amount of time on the ball in that area of the field. And I think that was such a bad performance by him. I don't want to see him in the midfield, regardless of whether McGregor's there or not. I think we need to try something else, whether that be Daniel Kelly, whether it be Odin Thiago Holm. But I think hopefully, I really hope McGregor's back. If not for this Saturday, certainly for next Saturday, because although people say he's overrated and he's not good at this and he's not good at that, you can see what the team looks like without him, and it's not a very pretty picture. So let's hope he's back. Now, the other question they're going to have to answer now is who's going to replace Yang in the wide areas, because we had looked good with Yang there the last couple of games, especially the sort of back half of the game against Motherwell and the game against Dundee in the midweek. We looked as if he had a real combination starting to build with Arthur Johnson and Matt O'Reilly. There was a lot of really good little passing triangles going on. But that's gone now, and we have to make a call. I'm really not sure who we pick in the wide area to replace Yang. What do you think, Brian?
Well, what's our choices with Palma or Kuhn? And
it's Palma or Kuhn, really. That's the bottom line.
Or James Forrest. And you know something, I would definitely play Palma over. But Palma's a 6 out of 10 every week for me. You know what I mean? Or he's a 5 or a 7. He's not. Yang would have been a consistent 7.5, 8. It's what Palma turns up, and then you know, if the back four will take care of itself. O'Reilly, Bernardo, I think are nailed on for the middle. Maeda, he has to play Maeda. Although I'm starting to run out of patience with the fella because of his end product. But it's literally Palma or Kuhn. I don't think Thiago Home is coming anywhere near. I don't know what the hell's going on with that young fella, but we need to play Q.
I've just brought a comment up there by Plunge McNugget that Kyogo can play on the wing. Do you think that's a possibility? Because it'd be a good way to get Kyogo back into the team. He is, after all, probably our best player. And you know, there's an argument for saying we should be finding a place for him in the team, and he can play in wide areas. In fact, he has played there quite a bit when he was in Japan. So I think that's probably a decent shout, just to try something different, rather than just recycling the same old guys through the wing positions who've been really poor. I mean, Kuhn's been so bad. I don't think there's any argument for him getting a start. And Palma's been, you know, marginally better. He showed in spells that he's been okay, and he scored a couple of good goals, had a few good assists, but recently he's been right off form. So rather than just keep recycling the same sort of failed solutions into the team, I think it's probably time for something different, and that could be playing Kyogo in the wide area.
No, I think that'd be a great option. And then if it's not working, push Kyogo up front with Alameda, and then sacrifice a midfielder, bring Palma in. But you know, I think Bernardo, O'Reilly are nailed on. Ida will be nailed on. Maeda. But you know something, I think we can afford to roll the dice a bit and play Kyogo on the left. And it's not as if we're rolling the dice. I mean, he's a player that was touted to be 12, 15 million, you know, during the summer, hence the 5-year deal. So if he has that freedom and he can go and play on the left or the right, bring it on. I think we just have to do what we have to do in these next sort of number of games. I think what we're down to is 9 games in the league and 1 in the cup. Potentially we've left. Maybe it's 10 games in the league, but I think it's just a case of horses for courses, because Livingston will definitely go with the long ball. The big hard man throwing it out. I want to see us back to the stage. The ball boys are throwing the ball, have about 6 balls there. They're throwing the ball on the pitch, make it, you know, get 2 or 3 up and just get the game won, you know, and then even bring on the likes of Home with 25 minutes to go and see what he can do and just say, right, there you go. This is an opportunity for you. But I agree with you. Iwata should be nowhere near the club or nowhere near the team at the minute. I just don't get it. You know, it's like he was coming in to be the great savior. I mean, he was Japanese Player of the Year, you know. And there's another thing. Where's O? What's happened to him? You know?
Yeah, I think he's dropped behind Ida and Kyogo in the pecking order. And to be honest with you, probably quite rightly so. Just in terms of Iwata, I think that's now. It's interesting to note that both Ange and Rodgers have both overlooked him for much game time, and we've only played him really sporadically. And I think it's probably time we faced up to the fact that that's probably because he's not as good as we think he is. He carries a big reputation particularly from being the MVP in the Japanese league, but it's not. I mean, all things being equal, it's not a strong league. And if you look through the list of MVPs from that league, there's not many household names in there that have gone from strength to strength to be the best players in the world. So I think we've just overrated him based on what he's done in Japan, and he's not had a game under either of the last two managers. And I think probably it's time to look at moving Iwata on probably in the summer.
Yeah. I think it was the signing Kyogo was like wow. And then Maeda, and then it was Itaguchi and Atate was it the first three come in, and then Maeda come in. And then the Asian players that have come in since then haven't really been that good. And it's been more like a punt than anything else.
Yeah.
Whereas Kyogo was star quality. Atate, first couple of games, I think it was Dundee United, he scored that wonder goal and then the goal against them. But Yang has looked good in fits and starts. Itaguchi, God love him, he got clobbered against was Morton in the cup or Alloa.
No, he got clobbered against Alloa in the cup on a freezing cold night out there in Clickmanningshire. So
I wouldn't want to say that with a few pints on me. Clickmanningshire. Yeah.
I think Arminius into his time in Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think about Maeda? Is growing the hair back? Don't need to get him back into
I don't know about that, but if he could, I wish he could grow a first touch. Maeda's been another one. It's been really frustrating this year. He's just so inconsistent in terms of you just don't know what you're going to get from him. You give him the ball, it could either end up in the stand or it can end up in the top corner, being a worldie of a goal. But he just doesn't seem to have the fundamentals to be a professional football player. And people talk about us playing him as a central striker. How on earth can you play as a central striker when you don't have a first touch?
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't.
He's like one of these guys you play in fives who would be a marathon runner, who would be fit as hell. We would be running around, sweat dripping out of us and faces like thunder, struggling to breathe, whereas this guy wouldn't break a sweat. But we don't need athletes. We need footballers. And we need footballers who can let the ball do the work. Jan Molby and Gaza, to name a few, carried a bit of timber, but they got the job done. There's no point having an athlete on the pitch. You know what I mean? We might as well get Usain Bolt in.
We need footballers.
We need footballers, He's great and he can do this and he can do that. But you look back to the Atletico Madrid, the passage of play, O'Reilly, Atate, Kyogo, the one, do you remember the Kyogo goal, O'Reilly? Mm-hmm. That's the last time I think he's actually played as a footballer, But the bottom line is, if it's okay having one or two passengers, but you can't have six. And when he's in the team, as much as I love him, and I've written a song about him, I say written a song, I've stolen one, but he can only be in the team if there's the other 7 or 8 are really on form. But when we're down to the bare bones, it's like having almost like half a player, because there's no point running, getting into space if you're arriving too early or you don't have a touch or you're not making the right decision. I mean, there was a couple of chances. I mean, in the Hearts game, there was a few. Somebody maybe makes a better decision than Maeda, then we're talking about a draw potentially, And I think O'Reilly's trying to do everything at the minute. But these guys need support. The players on the pitch need support. Joe Hart needs support. Alistair Johnson has been amazing since he's come back from his injury. And I was worried about him getting a knock. And, talk about the referees. Like, there's players that target Kyogo for his shoulder. And, it's almost like you're waiting for somebody to go in hard on Alistair Johnson. And, that would be my kind of worry this weekend. But I would seriously. It's controversial. I would nearly play Ralston against Livingston in the cup game. I couldn't care about the cup. I think we'll win the cup. I think we'll win the Livingston game, but I would wrap Johnston in cotton wool, because that basically means anything happens to him, we've nothing down that right side. You know, I bring James E. Forrest back in as well potentially, but I'm going off kilter as always.
Okay, speaking about the right side, we're going to talk about a player who's reportedly on the cusp of leaving the club, and that's Liel Abada. The reports being that he's joining Charlotte FC in the MLS for a fee which seems to be being reported as £10 million pounds, but I think that's probably, you know, with a lot of add-ins. So I think. I'm not sure how much cash we'll get up front as part of that, but in my opinion, that is a really good deal for Liel Abada. I believe, and I said so in a couple of podcasts, I think he should have been sold in the summer. I think he was a guy at the right age, at the right time of his career to be sold for decent money. And when we were talking about him leaving in the summer, the figure being quoted was around about 10 million. So since that, he's lost about half a season to injury, and his form's not been great even when he's back, notwithstanding all the other things going on in the background. So what's your take on Abada leaving for Charlotte?
Do you know something? That it's part of football. People come, people go, and we're the constant. We're the ones that remain. And again, I remember when he first joined the club, he scored away to, it was Jablonec. Him and Hart made their debut in that game. It was 4-2 or 4-3 or something away, a win. Great player, but last season he wasn't getting a shirt. He was a bit part player last season under Ange. So Ange knew that he didn't have it. He had it in fits and starts, and it was great when when he came back and he put that ball in for Kyogo. I can't remember what game he was playing.
But it was against Bucky Thistle in the Scottish
Bucky
Cup.
Thistle. When he came back on and he up and down, just got to the byline and swung the ball in, I just went that the wee man's back. But good luck to him. You know, he's a young fella, and he was Israeli Player of the Year. We bought him, and then we bought the top goal scorer in Holland, and so he was good. He was good. He was a good player to bring in because we needed a rebuild. But he's been up and down. He never looks happy. He always looks really down in the dumps or something. His body language looks very negative. I wish him all the best, you know, but I think a club just needs to be wary of you know, potentially future signings that are going to who don't buy into what we're about. And while we're not, I don't want to get dragged into things, but we're a club for everybody. But I wouldn't want us to sign like at the Canio ever again because it was his views and he's a young player, and you know, it's like I'm firm believer in the path of least resistance. See, bad Scott McDonald. I never liked Scott McDonald. I never liked him, and I know he's Australian and all the rest, but for what he did against us and Motherwell, but he's a professional footballer, you know. But why put yourself in that position? It's like Kenny Miller as well. I was more Strachan getting two fingers up to Celtic fans, you know what I mean? But signing Miller and signing Scott McDonald and going, I can get a tune out of these boys. And to be fair, he did. But there we go. Wish him all the best.
Do you think? Are you quite comfortable that the club done everything they could in terms of making Abada comfortable at Celtic? I think there was a lot of sympathy for him kicking around, but I don't think that lasted when he disappeared straight up the tunnel after the game against Hibs when we won in the last minute. And then there was pictures of him on Instagram, you know, going to the 10-pin bowling during the Celtic game. And, you know, I don't think that sympathy was lasting. And I think a parting of ways is probably right. But do you think the club should have been more vocal in defending themselves against the sort of comments that were coming from back in Israel? There was one I noticed today, I think it was from the president of one of his former clubs, saying that he was getting abused in the street and all this. And, I think he was supported by the fans. And you never know what one idiot shouted at him in the street. But I think that's played a big part in him, and the pressure has came from external, from maybe from his family and from sources back home in Israel. But I think I'm quite comfortable that the club did everything they could.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't the Mo Johnson, you know what I mean? He wasn't getting it from both sides. He there might have been one or two fans, I don't know, but I know when he went on the pitch, he was clapped on and he was cheered and he was, you know, everyone was delighted to see him. And I look back at Joe Hart, whenever the away game, I think it was away to Motherwell, if you hit the Royal Family, clap your hands. I mean, Joe's was an England player, 70 odd caps, and he still runs around and claps the fans, you know. So the fact that he sneaked off down the tunnel, and you know, he wasn't available for us. You know, we need people in the trenches with us to try and win this league. To you know, and he'd rather be out 10-pin bowling. If his head's so far up his ass, what's he doing out 10-pin bowling? What's he doing out in public? You know what I mean? Just you know, put the sick line in, do what you need to do, and wish him all the best. To say he was a great wee player, but I'll not lose any sleep over him. And I believe we've done everything we could potentially do. Brendan protected him. You look at wee Griffiths, whenever Griff had the problems with mental health, etc., and Brendan just put his arm around him and said Griff will not be playing the rest of the season. And yeah, he's made that decision with Iwata, and wish him all the best. And the King's dead, long live the King, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, financially a good deal for the club.
Good deal for the club.
Moving on to the next reported departure. I just had this on, and this is just like hot off the press, like yesterday and today. The fact that Alessandro Bernabei might be leaving on loan immediately to go to the Brazilian league to play for the Club International. Now this is a little bit more of a strange one for me, because if you're such a bad player that the club would rather have no one rather than you, then that's really a damning indictment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, again, if he needs a lift up to the airport, I'd be in Manchester this evening. I don't know if he needs a taxi up. Trying to be funny, but no, to me, the writing was on the wall whenever he got done for drunk driving, or you know, first couple of, you know, that to me was the warning sign. You don't come in, and whether that was not knowing the law or whether it was, you know, whatever. But he failed it. He was, and that's not a good sort of. That's where his head. If he wants to be a party boy, let him go and join the rest of them and party away and stuff. But we need boys who are up for the fight. And if he never puts his shirt on his back again, I'd be happy enough. I would cancel his contract, just bin him. It must have cost 3.75. Yeah, there's no point having bad eggs about the place. You know, there's no point having boys. Look at, he's probably what 15, 20 grand a week or something. Liam Scales is probably on about 3 or 4. Okay, I know who I'd rather have in left back with me, or in that left side. You know, just no need. Not a professional. Too much into the tattoos and the whatever else. You know, but all the best.
What do we do if Greg Taylor gets injured? Who's the next cab off the rank in that position? Do you think it's Mitchell Frame? Or do we swap Ralston over to the left?
Mitchell Frame or Ralston. But you can't rely on these guys. I'd rather have me in there that'll have the mentality and the will to run through a brick wall to get the results. But don't need passengers. And I think Brendan's protecting the group by weeding out any sort of negativities. And I think that's what he's doing. He's got Abad away. He's got Bernabei's the next one. And long may it continue. You know, Iwata, if he wants to lift to the airport as well, he can go. As far as I'm concerned, I'd rather have 14 people that are going to fight and give it all for the next 10 games, and a couple of boys are going to come in and give it, well, I don't know if it could be ours today or whatever. You're playing for Celtic here. You're playing for the first British club that's won the European Cup, Champions League, whatever way you want to call it. So, and you're playing for the current champions. So if you're not up for the fight, you can go. Don't need passengers, you know.
So we've got Livingston in the cup this weekend. I How important a game do you think this is? Do you think we should be picking a full strength side, or do you think we should be sort of taking the opportunity? We've already spoke about perhaps resting Alistair Johnson. Is there anyone else you think we should be resting for this game, or should we be going hell for leather? And how important do you think winning the Scottish Cup is?
I think from a point of view, it's our trophy to, we won the treble last year. We want to defend our trophy, and I think we should have. I couldn't see any negative. I couldn't. Right, thinking out loud here, like if Joe Hart was sent off, Kyogo broken leg, and Matt O'Reilly had a cardiac arrest, then potentially Livingston could win the game. I don't see that happening. And whilst I would rest Alistair Johnston, I would rest Alistair Johnson. I would play CCV, but once we're 2 or 3 up, I would get him off the pitch, wrap him in cotton wool and whatever else. Just get Kelly again. I'm looking at Typhoon McFlustery. Kelly, love to see the big man in there. Get in, get the game won, and it's Martindale's last hurrah. I don't think we'll see Martindale in football again. And the thing about it
what a shame that would be.
What a shame, yeah. And the thing about it is, if he had his tactics were always the Craig Levein, long ball, physical, get the knockdowns, get the set piece, and then he started to change it, but it didn't work. But if he had probably stuck with what he had, the tactics wise, he probably would have been okay. But I just think this Livingston team are all over the place, and this we're chomping at the bit to put a marker down, and I can see it being 4-5-0. And if anybody in that Celtic team who has an opportunity to come in and make a difference, whether it be Lager Bielka or Odin Thiago home, and they don't rise to the occasion, they can just go get their P45 and go and hang out down Swansea or with your guy. What was his name? French guy. We signed him from City, 4.5. Go and hang out with Olivier and Cham and the boys. All these pretenders to the throne. You'll have a chance to take it.
Yeah. Well, I think my view is I think we should start with a full strength team. To be honest with you, I think we need to show that last week's game was an aberration, really caused by the effect the officials had on it. And I think we need to try and get some momentum. Winning becomes a habit, and I think we need to get back into that habit. I think that there is some scope for playing Daniel Kelly, but he's been coming off the bench the last few games anyway, so he deserves a start. Yeah. I wouldn't be resting Johnson. Certainly not at the start of the game. I think maybe if we're a couple of goals up or 3 goals up, we could maybe think about making changes like that. And for Cameron Carter-Vickers, it's all about minutes in the legs. Yeah. I think the more minutes we can get into these players' legs in advance of going to Ibrox, the better. But so I think we'll start with a full strength team and make the changes as the game goes on. So what do you think the score's going to be, Brian? I'll grab a prediction off you.
I think we'll 4-0.
Yeah, 4-0. I'd agree with that. I would say 3 or 4-0, and I think it should be a comfortable day at the office, and let's hope we can get back into winning ways. So that's it. We've ticked over the hour, Brian. This is about the time we normally do our social media, but with Gav disappearing, I've only got one thing here, which you provided. So I'll put this up. We can have a look at it.
It's a guy called Matthew Staples sent that he's a independent journalist for Staple Times. This was very funny. This is an owl doing a Marilyn Monroe, but an owl is a cute looking creature. Oh Jesus! Look at the head.
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe. Aye. The old owl would torment its prey before killing it. That maybe that'll be. I don't know who the referee is this weekend, but no, let's get out, get the game won. I think Edith will score, Kyogo, O'Reilly, and a big CCV header would be lovely. 4-0. I think Livingston are gone. And if could you imagine if the SFA, if any of the referees put a foot out of line or try and do something or rule a goal out, that's damage limitation for the SFA this weekend. And I can guarantee, I'd put my bloody house on Celtic winning this weekend. That last week was just an absolute disgrace. But we'll move on. We're here. We are where we are. We're still in it. We're still in a title race. And even if we lose, the unthinkable, if we lose this weekend, which I don't think we will, we're still only 2 points off the Maggie Mob, and they have a couple of games against Benfica, and hopefully there'll be a few lads in there. Jod will be on the phone to a few of the boys in Benfica saying, "Here, make sure you leave the boot into a few of them."
Yeah,
me sitting the fence,
Let's not contemplate getting beat off Livingston at home in the cup. That would be really bad. But thanks for joining us, Brian. That was a good chat. Thanks everyone joining us in the comments. We're very, very close to 1,000 subscribers. So just go and click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and go and get your wife to do it. Go and get your husband to do it. Go and get your aunties, your cousins, your brothers, and your granny and grandpa. Get them all to hit subscribe anyway. Get us over that 1,000 mark, hopefully by the weekend. So, thanks, Brian. Thanks everyone in the comments. We'll be back.
Can I just give a wee shout out? Sorry, can I give a wee shout out to John and Sinead from Newry, who are big fans, and also my friend Michael Broderick from Ballygolly, who's been an absolute rock. So hail, lads. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Brian. And hail, in the comments. We'll see you down the road.
All the best. See you later. Bye.